Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. We've come down to my buddy Jason Stevens' place, Superior Plants. We've shown this off several times over the years in quick tour videos. He grows super interesting plants, grafts a lot of interesting trees and natives and non-native plants. He's in the process of doing his grafting right now, and he's actually taught grafting in a video that was on maybe 2 years ago if you're interested in learning anything about what I mean when I'm talking about grafting, taking a piece of a tree here and actually grafting it to a rootstock of another plant. For various reasons we would do that, and you can learn more about that in that video if you want to go back and take a look at that. But when I put up the video of the new space in the Raleigh garden, that we're going to have the native plant garden, Jason immediately reached out and has donated about 10 plants, I think, up here, native plants, and we'll be talking more about those in the upcoming weeks. But we've got an Elysium, and we've got Cephalanthus and Kyananthus, and several things we'll be talking about over the next few weeks. A black hall viburnum, and I can't even remember now. So many plants up there that he's generously given us. But two that really caught my eye. I love river birches, and river birches are one of our, we call them one of the keystone species. One of the plants that when we're talking about a keystone species in the plant kingdom, we're talking about one that supports lots and lots of other life. And so when we're talking about river birches, they do a lot of things. They hold stream banks in place. This one's along a pond here, and they're great at preventing erosion in the wild. And then of course they're host to 300 plus caterpillars from moths and butterflies, and then lots and dozens of birds take advantage of the seed and also eat buds on them as well. So they're again one of those plants that are necessary to help all the other species that then do other things in our gardens. Okay, so oaks and lots of other plants. You can look this up. But I wanted a river birch in the new garden, but I don't want one that gets 40 feet tall. There's a Duraheat. I had a Duraheat river birch at the old house. You can look up the video on that from the old house, and it was within 15 years. It was 30 feet tall, and just absolutely eating my back garden. And they can be kind of messy and that kind of thing. But this variety right here is called Little King. It's actually a dwarf. It's sold under a few other trade names out in the trade, but this one has not been pruned. It looks like it's been maybe pollarded, where it's been butchered a few times at the top to make it full like this. It has not, and he hasn't pruned on it in years and years and years. And it very early on gets the exfoliating bark that we would want in a river birch. Has the beautiful coloration down here, and then the branching is just unbelievable on the top of this tree. Of course, it's dormant now in the wintertime as we're here. The lower part of the native garden at the house, and we'll talk about this once these go in the ground, is going to stay a lot more moist than the rest of our garden and the upper part of the native garden. So we're going to have an opportunity to put a few things in that would like slightly more moist conditions, although these will grow in drier spaces as well. They're adaptable to drier spaces, but we'll definitely put it down where moisture is going to run to the bottom of that space quite a bit. But this one's been in the ground for a long time, and it's only 12, 14 feet at this point, again, as opposed to, I think the Duraheat river birch up there is probably 40 feet in height, and they were planted at the same time. So that'll tell you the difference between the growth rate. Another plant we're going to take is this Persea, and this is Persea palustris. This is in the laurel family. This is a selection that Jason made on the creek that runs behind his nursery back here. So it's called Persea palustris Hannah Creek, because this is Hannah Creek that runs back here. Persea is there's two species that are pretty common in eastern North Carolina in wet areas, and then down to Florida and even over to the Bahamas. This is palustris, has a bit of a fur on the back of the leaf, and I don't know if we'll be able to see it here in this rainy day, or if the camera will pick up on it very well. But I'll pull this leaf off, and maybe you can see that there's a bit of a furry back on this leaf. And so we don't use this one for cooking, but if you break this up and smell it, it smells every bit like what you would think about when you're using bay. So this, unfortunately, there is a laurel wilt issue that's happening that's killing a lot of things in this group. I know sassafras are succumbing to it, and lindens are succumbing to it, and Persea, and a few other things to a wilt issue. Super interesting plant, but you can see how full this one is. When we see this one out in the wild, when we're actually, out botanizing, typically it'll be like a single trunk skinny thing in the under canopy. But this one out here in the sunlight, you can see why he made this selection. It's a beautiful evergreen plant. Another one that's gonna like slightly moist conditions overall, but I would imagine this one has access to obviously root down in that water a bit, but I would imagine the top of this bank does get dry at times during the season. It gets a flower on it in the spring, in the late spring, early summer, kind of off-white flower, not necessarily the showiest thing, and then it forms a drupe later on. It's the, what is it, the spice bush? It's the spice bush swallowtail. It's the spice bush swallowtail that takes advantage of this plant. And that's one thing we want to be pointing out as we're adding these native plants to the garden, is that what species will take advantage of these. Unfortunately, again, like I say, this is one that is succumbing to a disease issue that was brought here, unfortunately, from Asia. And is causing the plants to die rather quickly once it gets into the plant. It has a gall on the leaf, which is actually kind of I would call it kind of semi-interesting. You'll see these galls that will kind of deform the leaf a little bit. And of course, in ornamental horticulture, people would absolutely panic about that, right? What 9 things can I come up to spray on this, right, to fix this problem? But nothing is the answer, and you'll get interesting leaves on here where the gall turns the leaf, can turn the leaf sideways like that one. And you'll see, the leaf next to it has a gall on it that's, for me, it makes the plant more interesting, if anything else. But this one has a great, just a perfect, if you looked at this from any distance at all and weren't getting up here close on this gall, that's a fantastic example of a leafy evergreen screening plant that we could take advantage of if you have a slightly moist area, right? And it would work in the understory too. You'd have to do a little bit of pruning on it to keep it fuller in the understory, but just a great plant. So we're taking one of these home. We're taking one of those, the river birch home as well, and several other things that we'll be showing off over the next few weeks as we get started planting in the native garden in Raleigh. But again, wanted to make a video just showing you how excited we are to get out here and to be picking some things early on to be putting into this new native garden project in Raleigh. Thank you so much for following along with it.